This video is brought to you by AKS IAS.
So first, I will be talking about the issue of diversity. Now, what comes to your mind when somebody says India? Perhaps the most defining feature of India has been diversity. A great diversity, amazing diversity. So India has always been an amazing mosaic of human affairs. Now, so much changes have now come into the construction of buildings and everything. Otherwise, I could have shown you the mosaic. Now, these days, the mosaic floors are not there, but rather they have tiles and stone tiles and ceramic tiles and the wooden tiles, but no more the mosaic. But from the olden times, not very old times, maybe say about 25-30 years ago, all those floors have been mosaic floors where different types of small, minuscule types of colored particles have been there. That has been the mosaic. Same is the case with Indian society. It's an amazing mosaic, colorful mosaic of human affairs. Different type of people. All sorts of diversities. Linguistic diversity, racial or ethnic diversity, so many cultural diversities, different types of food habits, different types of dress patterns or clothing, different types of mannerism, different types of even body language. Like we used to think that perhaps this type of body language in affirmative or negative is like हाँ का मतलब है like this and no or नहीं का मतलब है. This is not universal. In our own country there are regions where हाँ का मतलब ये होता है और ना का मतलब ये होता है. So one must be very cautious in these days. अगर आपने किसी से पूछ लिया, if you ask somebody और उसने ऐसे कहा, that does not mean that the answer is affirmative, the answer may be negative. And you would find yourself in trouble. So it's an amazing country and all of the Indians should be proud of this diversity, that we have been able to be one nation despite all this diversity. So if anybody says that, well, we are one nation, one culture, perhaps there can be no bigger lie than this. This is the political statement. No matter whosoever says it, no matter whether the President of India says it or Prime Minister says it, it can never be one culture, one nation. We are one nation but not one culture. Thousands of cultures. And we are proud of it. As Indians, we should be proud of it. That we are thousands of cultures, but still we are one nation. So diversity is a very much defining feature of our nation that called India. And how we have been able to engage in nation building process. I've been using some keywords, and please you keep writing all these keywords. I will not dictate. I will only say right when I'm giving you a definition. Otherwise, if you wait for my signal by saying you right, then perhaps in all these classes you will be carrying back the blank copy. As I told you, I hold you in very high esteem because of your adult intellect. So don't believe in dictations. I am not a dictator. No dictations. You have to choose to write. Pick and choose whatever you want to note down and keep noting down. Not every word that I speak, but the keyword. Like the word I have used, nation building process. Now, this word deserves to be noted. So, how these diversities may be reconciled with the nation building process? Now, the question is why and how these diversities have developed in our country or our nation. Why so much diversities? There must be some good reasons. Why is it that so many other countries do not have this diversity or this much diversity or this amount of diversity? Why? And the answer is that largely speaking, the size of our country, this continental size, that is why we always been using our Indian subcontinent, continental size. So this continental size so this vastness of this country, it's a very vast country with a variety of ecological zones, geographical conditions. Now give the example of any other country which has this much diversity in ecological conditions. No, no other country. You know, on the one hand, at the same time, one region of the country may be virtually burning with 45, 46 degree, 47 degree Celsius. And on the other hand, in another part of the country, you have snow-clad mountains. And man lives everywhere, in the arid and semi-arid regions, in the plateaus, in the plains, in the coastal regions, in the mountainous regions. So obviously the culture cannot be the same. Because as the cultural ecologists, as the cultural ecologists tell us, culture, now you can write this line, this is a very important line. Culture ecology, culture is the human response. Culture is the human response to the local ecological conditions. To the local ecological conditions. I'm repeating it so that if you have missed any word, because you are not supposed to miss any word. culture is the human response to the local ecological conditions. Now look at this definition of culture. So when we go to explain the diversity, then such a definition of culture would be very useful for us to understand diversity. So the experts who are the exponents of cultural ecology, this is a very important concept in human geography, anthropology and sociology. They say that culture is the human response to the local ecological conditions. It means that the way people of any ecological region respond or adapt, make adaptation with their local conditions, have their distinct culture. That is why the culture of deserts, arid and semi-arid regions is different from the culture of mountainous regions. I will give you one very interesting example, perhaps the easiest one that comes to my mind. You know, people all over the world pursuing different religious beliefs and systems. So they have mainly the two types of the method of disposal of the dead body. Either they cremate, as we do in India. So the Hindus all over the world cremate their dead, while Muslims, Christians and Jews, they bury their deads. They don't cremate, they don't burn it. Why it is? Because if we take the help of cultural ecology, then we have the answer. All those three religions, major religions, Christianity, Judaism and Islam, if you look at the region where they originated, all the three originated from the same geographical condition. Very scanty rainfall, very scanty forest, no wood, desert areas. What should have been the best way? The best way is to dig a pit and bury the dead body. This is not the case here. With so much snowfall, so much forests, so much wood, perhaps a better way would be to cremate the body. And this is also more scientific also, to cremate the body. Now one can hypothesize, one can have an hypothesis that had these religions been born in India, then perhaps they would also have been cremating their deads. But they were born elsewhere in the conditions where the wood was very scanty. That is why. But you may also have some exceptions. Perhaps the best exception is the Parsi community, the Zoroaster community, where what they do, they keep the body of their dead over a tower of silence, and let the vultures eat all these flesh, and then when the bones remains, then they bury it. So it may be an exception, but most of the time you will find that this is the practice. I will give you another example. In the whole of the Indo-Gangetic plain, there are so many rivers and their tributaries. Virtually every month we find that there is some sort of festival related with the bathing festivals, Ganga Snan and Purnima Snan, Buddha Purnima Snan, and so many other snans. All these cannot be found in Jaisalmer and Balmer area of Rajasthan, where you hardly have any water. A number of devout Hindus, they uh, offer water in a ritual to the sun god. Where you don't have any water to drink, how can you offer water to the sun god? So, even all the religious beliefs and practices, these are the products of largely, not totally, but largely, of the local ecological conditions. Same is the case with your food habits, your dress patterns, everything. It depends on the geographical conditions. And that is why we find that in our vast country, so many different types of food habits are. You might be seeing that when our ruling party took at its political agenda the issue of beef and cow slaughter, and when they were facing election in the northeast, all of their leaders in the election campaign assured the people in the northeast that there will be no ban on cow slaughter if they come to power. They never said that they will enforce it throughout the country. Why? Because they knew that the people's religious sentiments there in the northeast are not related with cow. Cow is like any other animal for them. Cow is very important from the religious point of view in the cow belt, what we call cow belt. UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Haryana, parts of Andhra Pradesh, parts of Karnataka, not throughout the country. So, governance and politics, political agenda are two different things. When you come into power, then you see the realities. And when they were asked question as to why, when it was your national political agenda, then you could afford to lose 4 or 5 states. So, the food habits are also vary from place to place, from region to region. Many of us are really shocked when we are told that Indian people in one part or the other eat virtually everything. Everything. Right from dog's meat to the all sorts of lizards, everything. The same people, like us. You name an animal and I will tell you where it is enjoyed. In the whole of the northeast, dog's meat is a delicacy. I mean, the non-vegetarians among us cannot think of eating dog. You virtually vomit it out. If we are fed, say, mutton or chicken, but if somebody says that, no, you were fed dog's meat, you will just vomit it out. Why? The same type of Homo sapiens or human beings have been relishing dog meat. Why not you? Simply because food is a culturally conditioned thing. You are conditioned culturally. So food is culturally conditioned. This is a good word to note. I'm just giving you the hints, what to note and what to hear only. So food is culturally conditioned. Your culture trains you. You are trained in your culture to relish or not to relish, to accept or not to accept a particular food. Same is the case with clothing. To cover the body has never been the human instinct. It is not instinct. It is part of the cultural training. You'll be surprised to know that many of the primitive societies or primitive tribes have been going without clothes. And when we came into contact with us, we virtually forced them to start wearing these clothes. A very interesting example is from the Amazon forest of Brazil, where a tribe called Terra del Fuego, they don't wear any clothes. And there are women who also don't wear any clothes, obviously, like the many tribes of Andaman Nicobar Islands. But they are very fond of a particular type of jewelry made of cane and bamboo. The earrings and the bracelets, especially earrings and necklace, made of cane or bamboo. So they can come before a stranger without any clothes. They don't have any problem with that. But if they don't have those earrings, they would perhaps never come before a stranger because they will be so ashamed of it. So their shame there lies not in the genitals, but in the earrings, which means that even clothing is not a human instinct. It is not instinct. It is not natural. It is a product of cultural training. You are trained to cover your body. And to what extent to cover your body? To what extent to expose the body? And all sorts of things, your social values, your religion, and all sorts of things, they virtually condition you. Like in many parts of the world, covering head or the hair has been very common. In other parts of the world, no. It's not very important to cover the head. But elsewhere, So this largely the reason, what I'm trying to convey to you is the fact that the diversities in our country are largely due to a variety of geographical and ecological conditions. That is why this diversity. Two years back, I went to Port Blair in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And there I got an opportunity to converse with one of the last remaining primitive tribes of the world, the Jarvas, with the help of an interpreter. One of my students who is now in charge of these tribal settlements. So he spoke all this language. So with the help of him, I just had some conversation with 2 or 3 persons of the Jarva tribe. They were not very happy in wearing all sorts of these clothes. They said they don't like it because they were covering only the genitals and not the whole of the body, because of the local conditions are not very good for covering the body as such. So whenever there are large mosquitoes, what they used to do, they used to paint different parts of their body with some sort of a mud. It was just like a mosquito repellent, like this. They were not very happy with it. And they said that we were virtually being forced to cover the entire body from head to toe. They were not very happy with it. But yeah, but we are forcing them to fall in line. So sometimes you find that those who control the power structure also control their food habits and the living conditions of the other people. And this is happening all over the world. This is not specific to India. One thing more, which I find very important when I talk about diversity, this melting pot versus salad bowl concept. You know, in most of the usual textbooks, when you talk about Indian society, you will find this word melting pot. India has been a melting pot of races and cultures. This is the usual way of describing Indian society. Last 2-3 decades, uh, scholars find this whole concept is not very desirable because they said that this does not explain the Indian situation in a proper way. Because melting pot, the concept of melting pot is that when you mix all these things together and then let it boil and melt. This is melting pot theory of Indian cultures or Indian populations. They said, we don't like this. So in the social science discourse, when we describe Indian society, the present uh, concept which is desirable is salad bowl concept. So Indian society is like salad bowl. Like in salad you use, what you use? The cucumbers, the pieces of cucumber, tomato, carrot, all sorts of things of your choice and whatever is available seasonally, and then you eat it, you enjoy it. This is not mixed, but still all these together constitute your salad bowl, your green salad. You see, Indian society is like this. Why are we so hell bent on melting everything so that everything loses its flavor? And here comes a very important issue, and that is integration versus assimilation. These are two very important concepts and you need to understand it. Assimilation is a process through which a culture, mainly a dominant culture, a stronger or dominant culture, forces the others, the weaker ones, to fall in line and join the dominant culture and lose its identity. That is assimilation. You are assimilated. So this whole approach may be called as assimilationism. So it is integrationism versus assimilationism. So when somebody says that one nation, one culture, that denotes assimilationism. That is assimilation. Then the other one is integration. We talk about national integration. We never say national assimilation. What does it mean? Integration means when you are joining, when you are integrating multiple things in such a way that all these are joined together, maintaining their distinct identity, their independent identities, but they are joined together. Perhaps the easiest and the most obvious example that comes to my mind is like the construction of a wall. When every one of you must have seen a wall being constructed, a building being constructed, and the lines and layers of bricks, one brick to be put on the other like this, and all the bricks, the two bricks being joined through mortar, through cement, sand, and mortars. And till the time you apply plaster, till the time it is plastered, you find that the existence of every single brick. All these are independent bricks, but joined together. Our country is supposed to be like this. We may be having different cultures, different religions, different languages, but still we are joined together. So this has been the essence of Indian civilization. And the underlying principle has always been, let millions flowers bloom. Let millions of flowers bloom. No garden can be of the same color or same type of flowers. It cannot be a garden then, or a bouquet. So we are one nation but many cultures. And that is integrationism. Integration does not require that you lose your identity. Integration merely requires that you are joined together. And moreover, the fact remains that when in this country, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikh can exist as human beings with equal rights given by the Constitution. All these linguistic groups, Hindi, Urdu, Odia, Tamil, Telugu, Malayali, Punjabi, all these have been existing together. They have been having their own identity. And people are very sensitive about their culture and their language, and nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong in it. If you are asked to give up your language, and if somebody forces you to just give up Telugu and take up Hindi, will it be acceptable to you? No. Your refusal does not make you anti-national. You can very well say that, no, this is my language and I have every right under this constitution to have my language and my culture. So integration should be the mantra and not assimilation. Because if you forcefully, coercively, if you force something on the others, perhaps that group may for a while accept it, but it may erupt. It may erupt in a revolt or rebellion. So we have to be a diverse country and all these units enjoying rights and still joined together strongly. And that is how India has been. You know, when we got independence, then all those Western scholars, many of the American and British scholars, especially American scholars, have been making a forecast that India would disintegrate within the next 10 years. Because India would not be able to reconcile with all such diversities and be of one nation state. This has not happened, and this will not happen, because we have shown this amazing capability of reconciling our diversities in this nation building process. So this diversity should not be taken as our weakness. It is our strength. Our diversity is our strength. We cannot be a European country like, say, France or Germany, which does not have this diversity. Their concept of nationhood or nationalism cannot be forced here on India. Look at Germany, for instance. One language, one type of culture. That is why German nationalism. France, one language, only some immigrants have been added later, otherwise it was one people. How can it be compared with India? So by their definition, India can never be a nation, because their concept of nation or nationalism is based on uni-ethnicity, one ethnic group. We are hundreds of ethnic groups. So our nationalism or our nationhood would be based on multi-ethnicity. We are a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious. So Indian nationalism would be different from the French nationalism or German nationalism or Polish nationalism. It will be entirely different, because we are an entirely different nation. One of our colleagues made a very interesting observation when he says that this 3S has been the great integrating force in India. The Sari, Sangeet and Sanskrit. That's very interesting. You know, Sanskrit has joined so many Indian languages. It is served as a bridge between so many Indian languages. Same is the case with Sangeet, or Indian classical music, Shastriya Sangeet, which have got almost more than 50% of the great masters of Shastriya Sangeet happen to be non-Hindus, especially Muslims. You name any of the vidhas of the Shastriya Sangeet, and you will find that the exponents, most of the exponents happen to be the Muslims. And sari is one type of cloth which is perhaps from one corner of the country to the other, you will find the same thing. But this is another way of describing India. So there are so many different ways of describing India.
This video is brought to you by AKS IAS.